Good morning, and welcome to the Wisdom of the Soul for, what is it, January 15 of 23. Pleasure being with you. I really must say, I've been looking forward to this class and the one that I plan for next week for some time. And today we're going to talk about the Sermon on the Mount, and in particular, the Beatitudes, the introduction to the Sermon on the Mount. Not from a religious point of view, but as a metaphysical view of the nature of reality. And so we're going to talk about it in a whole different context, sort of a philosophical, metaphysical, rather than a religious view of the Beatitudes in particular, and the Sermon on the Mount as a whole. As I said in the newsletter, it's odd to me, always has been, how unfamiliar most Christians are with this most important aspect of the New Testament, of the teachings of Christ, which really was a summary. I was going to say were a summary, works either way, of it's sort of the best of Jesus on a mountain, uh, not unlike Moses. But I'm sure you've noticed, if you are a Christian, have been a Christian, or know Christians, many of them are much more inclined to talk about Moses and the Ten Commandments, a list of do's and don'ts, than the Sermon on the Mount. It's all but ignored. And although Christ is on a small mountain, much like Moses was, this is not a list of do's and don'ts. These 8 Beatitudes are an instruction manual. It's really a how-to guide. And so I'm excited to do that. And then next week, we'll do the Noble Eightfold Path of Buddhism, a teaching that is found in virtually all Buddhist traditions and is central. The fourth of the Four Noble Truths is the Noble Eightfold Path. 8 Beatitudes, 8 steps in the how-to of Buddhism as well. So then you'll be able to compare and contrast, and here's a crazy idea, decide for yourself, right? After that, to give you a little foreshadowing into the new year, I'd like to change our focus to personal development and do a series of classes, maybe 3 or 4, on what I think of as my Jedi training, which I've done for years, for decades, privately, one-on-one, before COVID, face-to-face, and since then, and I might add just as effectively, by telephone or Zoom. It's more fun to sit face-to-face, but that's just not possible in this COVID endemic. If it's not a pandemic, it's become endemic. And I've left town. My wife and I are quite remote, considering where most people live. But again, while it may not be as fun as sitting one-on-one with people, um, it really is effective, especially Zoom, where we can see each other. And this so-called Jedi training, I call it the FLY program, Feeling Like Yourself, has a series of tools, and I'd like to review them with you in this free, ongoing Wisdom of the Soul class, part of the Ageless Wisdom Mystery School. So let me say also, in addition to welcoming those of you who are with us live on Zoom today, podcast listeners, and those who watch the video on YouTube, let me just quickly stress the importance of subscribing if you're on YouTube. We get limited support from YouTube until we get 500 subscribers. And I think we're about at 350. So there's lots of people that are viewing this class on YouTube, but not subscribing, thinking like, what difference does it make? Well, if you subscribe, you get an email notice as soon as it's posted, each new episode. But moreover, it means that YouTube is going to help promote us, and it lifts us in keyword searches. So you always hear people say, subscribe, like, and comment. And that's why YouTubers want you to do that. So click that subscribe button. That helps a lot. And so too with the podcast. If you listen on Apple, you have an opportunity to drop a review, which really helps. Also, Podchaser is a player that gives you an opportunity to rate and review. And both of those really help when people do keyword searches, even on Google. But they're more likely to find us. So if you can support us that way, that's great. And I also want to thank those of you who have made financial contributions. That's been wonderful and really helpful in deferring the costs. A long way from paying our costs, but that's fine. If you can kick even $5 once in a while, do that by going to michaelbenner.com and clicking on Zoom class, or go directly to wisdomofthesoul.school. No .com, no .org, just wisdomofthesoul.school. And send your friends there. There's a little video and intro and a bio, and that's where you can leave your email to get on the newsletter. So with that, let's do our opening meditation. What do you say? The high point of the class for so many of you. So get comfortable, sit back in your chairs, and assume the position. Feet flat on the floor. Sit up straight. You can lean back. There's no reason you can't lean back and use the back of the chair. Become as comfortable as you can. The idea is not to be rigid, but to sit up straight. And then from that position, you relax. You close your eyes. Close your eyes. And begin to create and sense a letting go feeling throughout your body. You know, like at the end of the day, you get out of work and take a breath and relax, or you get home and kick off your shoes and change your clothes and take a breath and relax, you know. Or you're in school and you finally finish the big exam and it's over and done with, and you'll find out soon how well you did, but right now you can just relax. Put it all down. Feel the chair supporting you. Feel the floor beneath your feet. Ground yourself. Imagine roots. They're electromagnetic, but imagine a connection to the earth below you. Right through the carpeting or the tile or the floorboards, all the way down to the earth, wherever you happen to be. Imagine how a tree would feel. And I think it's a real important first step in meditation as you begin to relax, to feel the chair supporting you and let go into that. The chair is not going to drop you. You don't have to cooperate with the chair. Just let go. And similarly, feel that connection to the earth, as if you're electrically grounded. And like a tree, knowing this is your spot, this is where you grow, and yeah, you do belong here, right? And let's take, in your own time, at your own pace, 2 or 3 nice, slow, deep breaths. And when you begin, you inhale slowly through the nose. And fill your lungs fully, hold for a beat, and then exhale just as slowly through the nose or the mouth, all the way out beyond where you'd normally stop. And repeat that then a second and a third and maybe even a fourth time. And the tendency is to hurry because our breathing is typically shallow. So take your time, fill your lungs with strength and power, and as you exhale, that's when you feel the letting go, the breathing out, the evacuation. In with the good air, out with the bad air, like black oily smoke. Breathe it all out. In with the oxygen, out with the CO2. And then allow your breathing to become normal and natural. And the next step is to proceed to focus gently on relaxation in your body. You could start at the head and move down. I like to start at the feet and feel a letting go in the feet. Even though it's subtle, maybe it just feels like you're pretending. If so, you could tighten gently the muscles in your feet and then let go all at once. And oh, yeah, that's how it feels. And then, even though you're relaxed, see if you can't imagine a little more letting go in the feet. Same thing in the calves. You could, without overdoing it, just gently tighten the calves and then let go all at once. And say, oh, yeah, that's how letting go. And then let go a little bit more, even if you think you're pretending. That's the right feeling. And moving into the upper legs through the knees, create and sense on the front and the back of your upper legs a letting go feeling. It's a good time to relax, to float in that space between wide awake and anxious and deep sleep and the appearance of unconsciousness. Right in the middle, that's where we want to go. Let that relaxation feeling move through your hips and into your torso. Relax your buttocks, your lower back, your abdomen. But pause long enough to actually feel it letting go. And so too in the mid back and the tummy. Relax. There's a lot of psychic armoring in this, a lot of tightness in this belly area. Imagine if it were a suit of armor, dropping all of that. Or if you carry a shield and a sword, put it down. You want to feel vulnerable because there's nothing to defend yourself against. You're in a safe place. You can put it down. As the feeling rises into the upper back and the rib cage, and you imagine all the organs. Most of us don't even know all of them or where they are. It doesn't matter. Just imagine your heart, lungs, kidney, liver, gallbladder, spleen, whatever is in there, relaxing. Don't, you're not running from danger. You're not fighting. Not a marathon. Just let it go. And imagine that all these organs in the rib cage become more efficacious, more efficient. They do a better job as you relax. That's one of the reasons that deep sleep is so important. And then feel that relaxation spreading across the shoulders and flowing like a gentle warmth down into your arms, through your elbows and into the forearms, softening into the back of your hands and the palms of your hands, all the way down to the tips of your fingers and toes. Imagine yourself like a cube of butter left on the counter on a warm day, not melting so much as just softening. In other words, you don't change in appearance, but the butter softens as it's left out. Feel that softening. Should feel like a big relief, great relief. And again, if at any time you'd like to deliberately take a slow, deep breath, feel free to do so. And acknowledge what a wonderful feeling that is to let go. I mean, just not to try so hard all the time. Accomplishing and attaining and winning acceptance and approval, and just put it down. And if you lift your awareness to the space around your ears, you'll actually feel that area sag or droop slightly as you relax your scalp. Feel the letting go in your scalp. And you'll feel that space around the ears sag a little bit. That far out. Who knew that we carried tension in our scalp? And then check out the forehead. You can feel the same letting go in the forehead. My Lord, we carry tension in the forehead. Yeah. Let go of that wrinkled brow. And your cheeks. And the jaw. Oh, my Lord, the jaw. Let go of all of that jaw tension. You can even imagine relaxing your tongue. Though, again, this is very subtle. This is maybe just imagining how it might feel. Whether it lays on the floor of your mouth or touches the roof of your mouth or floats in between, or you're not even sure. None of that matters. Just imagine if you could let go of your need to speak for 5 minutes. Give your tongue a rest. And your lips. And with a little imagination, you could even release the grip of the gums on your teeth. And throughout your body, in every little nook and cranny, everywhere. Arteries, veins, little thread-like capillaries dilate ever so slightly as you release the grip of the muscles they move through, they course through. As you let go, Blood moves more freely with less resistance. Subtle but vital energies, similarly, flow with less resistance. The nature of the self, the mind, mental and emotional, the body and the soul align effortlessly. It's letting go that allows the alignment, the integration of all aspects of yourself to come together. You're doing something that many people are afraid to do. Just put it all down. And feel the warmth and the safety and the deep and abiding peace of relaxing for 10 or 15 minutes, deeply, profoundly. And from this peace rises on its own happiness, joy, and a warm contentment, a deep and profound understanding that in spite of what your mind may tell you when it's busy, that in fact, everything's okay. Everything's just fine. What if in truth, you're right on schedule, exactly where you need to be in your life, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing each and every time you feel peace and joy and happiness? That there's nothing to attain. You're not going anywhere. You've got nothing to prove. The more you know the truth of who you are, the less it matters what other people think of you. And truth be told, the less it matters what you think of you, or in fact, you are what you care about. You are the peace, the love, the happiness. From that comes the understanding that surpasses knowledge. Anybody can know things. The secret is to understand. Understanding is a letting go. All this time, we thought understanding and knowledge was a gathering up, a learning, a bringing in toward ourselves. When in fact, it's an awareness of the present moment, a letting go of that struggle, that effort to get somewhere, that economic conditioning that you have to earn a living and merit the acceptance of other people, as if you were a human doing rather than a being. You're not only fine the way you are, when you drop the differentiated consciousness of the separate self, you're perfect just as you are. And you remember your happiness comes from giving little things, your time, your attention, being a good listener, Consider for a moment what a wonderful gift to another and thus to yourself to listen, to just hold the space and be there for another, especially when you'd rather be doing something else. In our self importance, when people run me off the freeway, cutting me off, I think, well, they must believe they're very important people. And I recognize their suffering. And I go to compassion for myself as well as them. For we all get caught up in it, don't we? Just keep putting it down. This, by the way, is the meaning of, since we mentioned Moses earlier, keep holy the Sabbath. Could you set aside one day a week, or even 1 hour a day, to reorient yourself in this way? That's what it's about. To reconnect, to realign, to take a breath and relax, chill out, and remind yourself, oh, yeah, all this outer stuff is just a hobby. It's a game. Yeah, I got bills to pay. We have our needs. That's our daily bread. Give us this day our daily bread. That's not just food. That's all of our basic needs. Air and water and relationships and good friends and people you can trust and opportunity, career, avocation, vocation, interests, pets, a love of nature, a love of life. And then at what point is that enough? Do we really believe that excess will make us more happy? Some guy in the state of Maine this week won a lottery worth 1.3 billion, be like boy, billion, $1.3 billion. But get this, he doesn't know he won. He may be better off. Unless he realizes he won, he finds the ticket, he reaps the harvest, and gives it away. All of it? No. Keep some, have some fun. But the tragedy with the billionaires is they want more. And they don't give it away. They reinvest it to get more. And certainly there are exceptions. There is philanthropy and charity and many very wealthy people who give it away, give it away, give it away, give it away. But the exception proves the rule. Sad. Never envy another's life. Be grateful for yours, just as it is, exactly as it is, without condition. And know that peace. That's what it means to seek the kingdom. And all other things will be added unto you. Just reorient yourself and you'll get what you need. Think about it. You always have. You always have, even in desperate times when you didn't know what you were going to do. Somehow it worked out, didn't it? Prepare to return to the waking state, bringing with you this wonderful feeling of wholeness, the goodness and the truth and the beauty of discovering yourself through letting go of everything else. To be the awareness of the present moment, the observer, the witness, the watcher. Not even your breath or your heartbeat needs management. And begin by reorienting. In other words, simply forming the intention to return to the wide awake state. And then secondly, feel a gentle rising or floating up, maybe like a scuba diver drifting gently toward the surface, or in a hot air balloon gently floating higher toward the waking state. And then 3, eyes open. Open your eyes now, wide awake, alert, rested. Big breath, stretching a little bit, maybe shaking, whatever. Usually when we wake up in the morning, we don't shake it off, but it's actually sort of a nice thing to do. Or stretch a little bit. Come back into your body as if you're wearing this body. Stamp gently on the floor with your feet. Wake yourself up. Stimulate yourself a little bit. And come into the wide awake state. All right. Let's do Sermon on the Mount, and in particular, the Beatitudes. I rarely use notes, but today I'm going to. So if my gaze, as you look at the screen, seems a little distracted, it's because I'm shuffling windows around. And I have not memorized the Beatitudes, so I'm going to read them to you. First, I'll read through all 8 slowly, and then we'll go back and cover them one at a time. And I think I can do that in 30 minutes. And then we'll go to Q&A. And hopefully we'll have some response, some question, or comment. You don't have to have a question. You may have a comment. And whether you have a question or a comment, I'll respond. So I'll have something. I'll throw in my 2 cents worth. First, I want to read a little introduction that I wrote, just 3 short paragraphs. And I did this last night. I sat up for a while and thought, I'm going to introduce this. Maybe rather than just ad lib as I usually do, maybe I should write something. So, again, this is not scripture. This is just me. Okay. The Sermon on the Mount may be the most meaningful teaching ever given on the metaphysical nature of reality. In the Lord's Prayer, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, means as co-creators made in the image of God, that which we call God, made in the image of the energy, the power, the love, and the light that created all that is. Your worldly life reflects your consciousness. Okay? Your intentional thoughts and feelings, as in we reap what we sow, or as above, so below. So we know the Lord's Prayer from the New Testament. We've all been taught that. We've heard that we reap what we sow. You go where you look, you get what you expect. What goes around comes around. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Treat others as you would have them treat you, because whatever you put out, you're going to get back. Come on, over and over we hear the same thing. In ancient Egyptian, pre-Moses, ancient Egyptian Hermetic philosophy, there was the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Mercurius Trismegistus, a truly ancient Egyptian prophet. And like Moses, he had a tablet, but it was an emerald tablet, as the legend goes. For a time, it was in the library at Alexandria, but the Romans burned that library to the ground on 2 different occasions. So obviously, it was seen as pagan and trashed. But the second rubric, so called, by the way, the rubric or laws, were on this tablet, not engraved or carved into the emerald tablet, but in bas-relief. The commandments, if you will, the rules, the laws, stood out from the tablet and were colored red against the green background of the emerald tablet. It must have been striking to see. And the second rubric of that, the second law of that emerald tablet is as above, so below. As within, so without. On earth as it is in heaven. In your mind, reflected out into the world, don't you see? So this illusion that life has done to you is just that. In fact, it's a reflection of your attitudes, your beliefs, your intentions, your expectations, and such. Thoughts create reality. Energy follows thought. You reap what you sow on earth as it is in heaven. Okay? As the introduction to the Sermon on the Mount, the 8 Beatitudes, Beatitudes, as you probably suspect, mean blessings. You could think of them as prayers. They present a how-to manual. This is not the 10 Commandments. Don't do this, but don't do this, don't do that. This is more an instruction manual. How you do this. A how-to manual of principles and ethics and values that summarize Christ's greatest teachings. For Christ was not a Christian any more than Buddha was a Buddhist or Muhammad was a Muslim. Christ was a mystic. And so this is not a theological system of worship or ritual or ceremony. It's not about organized religion. That's the beauty of the Sermon on the Mount and its introduction, the Beatitudes. But guidelines for driving out ignorance, which is the darkness of believing you are a separated self, a persona, which means mask, a personality, an ego, that part that identifies for matters of survival with the separated self. In fact, you are the awareness that exists everywhere, equally present. So, these are guidelines for driving out ignorance with enlightenment. Light drives out darkness, right, without a struggle. Light vanquishes shadow by virtue of what it is, an energy. Shadow is not an energy. What is enlightenment? The realization that there's only one of us here, that all is one. Ubiquitous, everywhere equally present. And further, or said in another way, to redeem evil with goodness and become God-like rather than simply accept and obey. That's very different, isn't it? So what, me become godlike? Well, yeah, what's that mean? Just to be gentle and kind. If you are your enemy, if there's just one of us here, then love your enemy makes perfect sense. And people you love, or people you like but don't love, and people you sort of like but don't really like, and then people who, God, they really irritate you, and then people that disgust you when you want nothing to do with them, they're all reflections of you somehow. So to see God in others and in yourself, or in yourself and others, is simply to recognize the oneness of things. Now, one box of crayons has a lot of different colors in it, but those colors do not oppose each other. They do not resist each other. They present a problem only to those who insist on living in a black or white world. But they're beautiful and rich and wonderful. So even if everyone were enlightened, we'd still all be different in form. That's the whole purpose of the one creating the multiplicity, is to know its many qualities. Vive la différence. It's a good thing. So I was going to read these all the way through and then go back one at a time. Let's just do them one at a time. The first beatitude, and again, this is the intro to the Sermon on the Mount, is blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now, this is a little tricky. Poor in spirit. That's sort of like, blessed are those who are not very spiritual. Well, that's one interpretation, and that would be true for, how's it often said? The sun shines equally on the sinner and the saint, or God's love is unconditional, or, you know, all is forgiven once you reorient yourself and figure this stuff out. All your transgressions are, hey, that's okay. You're human. We knew you'd screw it up. We knew you'd err. What is a sin but to miss the mark? That's the meaning of the word. So we're all sinners. When religious people say, you're a sinner, we're all sinners. I'm a sinner. You're a sinner. Yeah, okay. That doesn't mean we're bad. We get that from childhood. You're bad. And then you go to church. You're a sinner. See this guy hanging on the cross? He suffers for you. It's all your fault. And blame it on the women and the snake. Nah, we got to do better than that. Well, it's the 21st century. So that's one way of looking at it. The way I think of poor in spirit, and that they are blessed, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, is voluntary simplicity. This is a rejection of materialism, to live free from the desire for more than we need. To store your riches in heaven and not on earth. Do you know that? That biblical injunction. Store your riches in heaven and not on earth, where moth and rust doth not corrupt, and thieves do not break through in the night. What does it mean to store your riches in heaven? What's really valuable? Money or love? I think you know the answer to that. Even a phrase for love or money. So storing riches in heaven and not on earth is to release everything that stands between you and your spiritual values, to drop altogether the self-centered desire for money, property, and material superiority, that egoic, I'm better than you because I'm richer than you. Look at my house, look at my car, look at my clothes, look at my trophy wife or my wealthy, powerful husband and the country club. Yeah, a lot of good that's going to do you, unless you give it all away. If you can't help yourself and you're just money is just flowing, just pass it on. The secret to prosperity is to keep it moving. Okay. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Number 2, blessed are they who mourn, for they shall be comforted. This is about developing empathy and compassion. What is compassion? It's taking the time, creating the space, having the love to consider the suffering of others, especially those who persecute you or seem to oppose you, to love your enemy. The way you do that, the way you forgive, is have compassion for their suffering. All right? Now, if I was a real preacher or a religious person, I probably wouldn't call people out, but I feel a little more free as a layperson to call out. I'll let you I'll let you use your imagination. Think of the most despicable people, the most disgusting and deplorable people that you know of, rich or pretending to be rich and powerful and superior, cruel, racist, insensitive, megalomaniacs, and narcissists. Now think of 1 or 2 or 3 of those in your life or in the public eye. Do you not see their suffering? Do you not see the self-imposed torment in the people that upset us the most? And then recognize how contagious that is. We pick that up. It's their fear. Anybody who frightens you is coming from fear. What are they afraid of? They're not afraid of us. They're afraid because they do not know themselves. All fear is fear of the unknown, and at the center of everything unknown is you. It's one thing not to know your circumstance. When I trained the Sheriff's Academy people in Orange County for a few years, they all knew situational awareness and operational awareness. What they did not have, and what I attempted to train them in, was self-awareness. They had been steeped in situational awareness and operational awareness, but they didn't know themselves. So they pull over some guy that rolls through a stop sign. He or she gets upset, starts yelling at them. The cop picks that up. He gets upset. He starts yelling back, but he's got 6 or 8 weapons on his belt. Starting with the intimidation of the uniform and the badge itself. They know that. They're taught that. Trust me. They know how intimidating they are. And then there's the ticket book and the handcuffs and the billy club and the mace and the gun and the taser. And they're even taught how to use fists. That's their job. What I was teaching them was self-awareness so that they had the option of de-escalating and stepping back and step forward if they need to an appropriate degree, and also step back. Let me get back on topic. Empathy and compassion. Compassion is what I'm talking about. Because sorrow and what appears to be failure, adversity in life, and suffering is not a punishment. God does not punish. That's Old Testament misunderstanding from a Bronze Age when people couldn't even read or write. It's not punishment. It's motivation. It's an opportunity to seek a greater spiritual truth, loving kindness and compassion. And that's that phrase about, see, I wrote it down rather than paraphrase. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, which means justice, and all these things will be given to you as well. That's what Christ is teaching. 3, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Wow. I love this one. This is one of the most important verses in the whole New Testament, the whole Bible, the whole Judeo-Christian tradition. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Two things here. What does it mean to be meek, and what does it mean to inherit the earth? Well, first of all, meek is not a weakness. It's humility. It's kindness. It's to be loving and to be gentle and to serve others. That's what it means to be meek. Think of Christ on his knees, washing the servants' feet with expensive oil, not even with water, but expensive oils, washing the servants' feet. Christ, demonstrating humility. And out of that come these other qualities: kindness, loving kindness. It's called in Buddhism metta. It's one word, it's one thing. Loving kindness is one thing. It's a hyphenated word. Inherit the earth means your daily bread, as I mentioned before. To inherit the earth is not just food, but to inherit the earth is that all your basic material needs will be met. Seek ye first the kingdom, and all else will be added unto you, that kind of thing. Get your head straight, get your heart right. Reorient, stop this self-centeredness that comes out of fear. And be other-centered. Give, give, give. There's only one of us here. You give to another, you give to yourself. You reap what you sow, on earth as it is in heaven. You getting the pattern here? You getting the idea? So to inherit the earth is everything you need will be given unto you. To inherit the wind, did you ever see that movie with Spencer Tracy about the Scopes monkey trial, Inherit the Wind? To inherit the wind is to get nothing, to make a fool out of yourself. Something about when you make trouble in your own house, you inherit the wind. So those were phrases. Contrasting those phrases help. Number 4 of the Beatitudes. Blessed are they that hunger and thirst after righteousness, which is justice, for they shall be filled. Why do you care about justice? Why do you give a damn? You can do several meditations on that. It's like, yeah, what is the part of me that cares about right and wrong? My conscience. Why is it difficult for me to tolerate homelessness in the richest country in the world? That we have hundreds of billionaires, yet 1 in 5 American children is food insecure, 1 in 6 is hungry. 1 in 6 American children is hungry every day. Why is that not okay with you? Why do you give a damn? As long as your belly's full. Because you have a conscience. Because deep inside, each and every one of us know, especially those of you who are attracted to this class, this podcast, this YouTube video. That's why you care. That's why we care. We hunger and thirst after righteousness. We want things to be fair and just. Those who strive for justice, which is a quality of love and peace, pursue right thinking, and right thinking leads to right conduct, and when we talk about the Buddhist Noble Eightfold Path next week, we're going to be talking about right thinking and right conduct and righteousness a lot. As within, so without. As above, so below. Like begets like. Come on, all this stuff. As a man thinketh, so he is. All things work together for good for those with love in their hearts. For those who think harmonious thoughts with love in their hearts for others and themselves, give to receive. What goes around comes around. You go where you look, you get what you expect. Number 5, blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Well, there's a give what you receive, on earth as it is in heaven. Reap what you sow, right there. Blessed are the merciful, of course. You will then obtain mercy. This is all about forgiveness. Just let go of your grudges, to be merciful in your judgment of self and others, to love your enemy, to see your enemy's fear, as I said earlier, and be compassionate, for we all go through this. We all suffer. We're, again, all sinners, which just means we screwed up, we missed the mark. Doesn't mean you're bad. I screwed up. I've done it before, I'll do it again. I went unconscious. I wasn't paying attention. Forgive me. There's no one on earth that doesn't feel that many, many, many times. And again, you receive what you give, because we're all one. There's just one of us here. So, of course, whatever you give, you're going to receive. You love your enemy because your enemy is you, and you are the enemy. And right out of Matthew, just a little further on down the page, he says, judge not, that you be not judged. Listen to this carefully. For with however you judge, you shall be judged, and with what measure you give out, it shall be measured to you again. Well, of course, that's how it would work. So you want to judge other people? Fine. That's the standard by which you shall be judged. Not by a separated divine being, but by yourself in the Bardo state between lives, when you recap, when you recapitulate your life and choose whether to reincarnate, where to reincarnate, how to reincarnate, as who, as what, to give her another go. You know, a season of lifetimes. Like sports, you don't just play one game and call it a season. You game after game after game, and then the playoffs, and then the World Series. Number 6, blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. Not with your eyeballs, for this concept we call God is not a being. I've gone on and on and on about this, probably to the point of exhausting it. Again, read the New Testament, and Christ explains, no. God is not flesh and blood. He's spirit. It's an energy force. It's a unified energy field. You don't see the TV coming off the antenna on top of the mountain until it's received by your TV set. The radio waves, you don't see them. It's energy. You don't see energy. You don't see the wind. You see its effect in the trees, but you don't see the wind, right? Energy going through water creates little waves, or sometimes very big waves. You don't see the energy, you see its impact in the world. Einstein, energy equals mass at the speed of light squared. but the equivalence is energy equals mass. All of this stuff, this apparently solid stuff, is just energy, and that energy is consciousness. So, the pure of heart, it just means innocence. It's right intention. It's good motives. And to see God is spiritual perception. Again, not the form or the figure, not with, literal material eyeballs where you see a God on a throne or a big white horse. To see God in the spiritual sense is the true nature of being, above and free of form, as energy. So-called heaven is a level of consciousness, don't you see? Hell is a level of consciousness. You could say the absence of awareness. So going to heaven and going to hell is just shifting your awareness. Where do you go when you die? Nowhere. You're already everywhere. You're going to make of that a heaven or a hell is up to you. What do you covet? What do you want your life to be about? So heaven's right here, right now. You don't have to wait till you die to go to heaven. All you have to do is have the eyes to see, the ears to hear, to see things as they truly are, which, by the way, is called vipassana. To see clearly, to see deeply, to see things as they really are. And those breath-watching meditations that we do from time to time, that's vipassana, to see things as they actually are, as energy, to see through the reflected light of what appear to be external forms. To see the sacredness in all things, the infinite and eternal presence of the one mind, of the one life, beyond the impermanence of the material world. By the way, this is the eye that becomes single. It's a reference in the New Testament. When the eye becomes single, the body is filled with light. This is the single eye. This is the third eye, the ajna center, the integrated self that gets it. Oh, I see. The third eye actually corresponds to a viewpoint from the center of the head called the cave, the middle of the brain, where you look out at a world and identify as the movie projector, not the movie. The movie is not being done to you when you go to a theater or sit at home and watch your big screen. It feels like the movie's being done to you, but it's actually projected from elsewhere. 7, blessed are the peacemakers. Yay, here are the peacemakers. For they shall be called the children of God. Now, this is more than just being a peaceful person. A peacemaker is a mediator. And this is accomplished with prayer and meditation. What does a mediator do? A mediator is not one who judges who's right and wrong. A mediator is one who facilitates finding areas of agreement. So whether it's mediating, as I often find myself doing, most difficult counseling I do is couples counseling. And usually, or quite often, each side wants me to adjudicate who's right and who's wrong and fix the other one, because it's obviously the other one is the problem. What a decent counselor or mediator will do is find an area of agreement and build on that. And when you've found all the areas of agreement, then you make concessions. Are you willing to compromise and come to the 50-yard line on this if we can get your partner to compromise and come to the 50? And then you keep doing that. That's mediation. That's not you're right and you're wrong. That's way too binary. So that's done with meditation, prayer, deep relaxation, that alignment, that opening, creating the eyes to see, right? Serenity. what I often call in my own journaling the extraordinary power of tranquility, the extraordinary power of tranquility. The peace that surpasses all understanding, the awareness of this oneness, this divinity everywhere. It's fearlessness. It's where my book, Fearless Intelligence, comes about. It's the intelligence of there's nothing to fear if there's only one of us here. There's a little rhyme, doo-dah, doo-dah. Nothing to fear if there's only one of us here. I like that. Affirming, affirmative and invocative prayer and meditation is really the only action that changes human character. Not prayers of petition, prayers of invocation and affirmation. That will change you, grow you, open you to the wisdom of the soul. Meditation creates an awareness of the presence of God, which is to be aware that there's only one of us here, the one life. And this is what it means, by the way, to be born again. Right? Not just, I'm on the Jesus team and my God is an awesome God. And if you don't agree with me and my doctrine and my ritual and my ceremony, you don't have the Lord in your life. And I will pray for you that spiritual superiority that ought to be as transparent as window glass. Have compassion for them. They're on the right track, perhaps, but there's so much more, so much more. You know, it's not that the most fundamentalist religious people are wrong. It's just there's more truth than what they may know. So often when people disagree in theology or spirituality or even politics for that matter, it's not that we have opposing views. It's just one has more truth than the other. It's not right or wrong. It's everybody's got a bit of it. And it's just like going to the movie with somebody you love and you see the same movie and you leave the theater and find out you disagree on a whole bunch of stuff. And finally, number 8, blessed are they that suffer persecution for the sake of justice. Remember, righteousness is justice. Why do you care? Blessed are they that suffer persecution for justice' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake, who make fun of you, right, for trying to teach this stuff. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. Once you figure it out, once you see it. For so persecuted they, the prophets before you. And again, this is often called the will of God or the will to love. There's no power, no grace in martyrdom, but rather in harmony and peace and joy. What this 8th beatitude means that you're blessed when persecuted for cultivating right thought, righteousness, fearlessness, justice. The source of this person, of this persecution, remember, includes self-persecution, our own ego, our own faults or lower self. We're really hard on ourselves, right? Often more cruel to ourselves and to others. And this is the source of temptation. Lead us not into temptation or evil. Persecution by others would not be possible without some level of personal confusion, or even worse, accepting that you merit the punishment of others, the scorn of others, and that they're judging you as bad, weak, wrong, stupid, your butt's too fat, whatever. But if you didn't buy into it, if you didn't agree with it, it wouldn't hurt. It would bounce off you. No one can make you feel inferior without you content. No one can persecute you. Not emotionally, anyway, or spiritually, psychologically, without you buying into it. Hence, love your enemy. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. That should sound familiar. Forgive them. They just don't get it. They know not what they do. Those are the Beatitudes. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, we've got about 20 minutes left, a little less than that. Let's do some Q&A. And what I'd like you to do is just raise your hand or put a note in the chat box. I have a question. I have a comment you can put in there, or you could use the chat box to help you formulate a nice, concise question. And in any event, Melinda will see that and will call upon you. Again, comments as well as questions. There's a lot here. I did a lot of prep for this because I don't want Christians to stop being Christians. I don't need anybody to change their mind about anything. My desire is to help people open their mind. And if in so doing, they create change, or better said, growth, so much the better. But this is about opening your mind, which includes your heart. The mind is actually a reference to the mental and emotional, actually, the physical and the metaphysical, the persona and the soul. The mind is the one mind, the one life. It's everything. So mind, body, and soul is not that different from mental, emotional, and physical. And then the soul is all of that overshadowing. Again, because nothing is separate. That's really the wonderful bottom line to it. It's a good place to get your feet underneath you. All separation is illusion. The fish appear to be separate, but it's one ocean. And work with that allegory. How could both things be true? If it's one ocean, how could there be any separation in the ocean? Well, look at the fish. This fish just ate that fish. They were separate. Now the bigger fish includes the small. You see what I'm saying? Binary thinking is a horrible curse, a pox on humanity. This either or, this idea that any difference, any variation is an opposite, and different things cannot both be true. The desire for absolutism, the desire for security in a terrifying world, leads people to absolutist binary thinking. What's right, what's wrong here? Everything or nothing, winners and losers. These people disagree. They have diametrically opposing views. They can't both be right. Really? Are you sure? Are you sure there isn't an absolute truth, but also a series of relative truths? Subjectivity as well as objectivity? Can't we have both? Can't we have it all? That's a real good entry point, too. So, Melinda, what say you? Do we have anybody willing to step up? Yeah. It's meant to be. Again, the Sermon on the Mount is a summary. Christ, if that were the only thing that anybody ever knew about Christ, that's all you need. You don't need the story of born in Bethlehem and the three Oriental, we don't use Oriental anymore, Asian kings, the wise men. You know how they found the Dalai Lama? Whenever the Dalai Lama dies, they have to go out and find a baby that is the reincarnation. That's what those kings were doing when they found Christ. And it's a nice backstory that appears in a couple of the Gospels. And the miracles and the walking on water and far out and the raising the dead and fishes and the loaves. These are all great stories, but what's the point? Here's the how-to manual. These things I do, you can do and more. This is it. This is all you need. And the introduction is the summary of the summary. It's the cliff notes, those 8 beatitudes. So yeah, there is a lot here. And wait till we contrast it next week with the Buddhist version of the same thing. We'll all be Buddhist, Christian, Buddhist, Muslims, Jewish mystics, Sufis, panentheists. It's all, there's truth everywhere. Well, I talked about the second rubric of the Emerald Tablet. That's probably 5,000 years old. In ancient Egypt, as above, so below, as it is below, so it is above. That means whatever is in your mind, in your consciousness, is going to be reflected in the physical world. And there is a back and forth. It's a two-way street. But the primary motion is down and out, right? From the one, the Godhead, through the many souls, down into form, and then out into the world. We're co-creators. We're made in the image of the Creator. It says so in all these books. So we're co-creators. So if we take one day a week to rest and remind ourselves, wait a minute, I'm an emissary, I'm a liaison, I'm a pilgrim, I am a representative, and everything that I think and feel and say and do should represent this wholeness, this oneness, this loving kindness and compassion. Take a day a week or take an hour a day to reorient. That's all the religion you need. You don't, if people can't do that on their own, then they need the fellowship and they need the worship and to pray together and sing together. Fine, but the problem is it often comes with a bunch of rules and regulations, often misinterpretations of this material, that it would be better if we discovered on our own and then shared in our community. In Buddhism, the 3 jewels are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Sangha, the 3rd jewel, is your community. That's fellowship, but it doesn't have to be in a building. It could be a Zoom class, right? This is our Sangha. This is our community. But everybody's included. It's not like you get the membership card or the secret decoder ring. Right? Join nothing except a common desire to understand who we are and what we're for. And the proof's in the pudding. You get happy, and everybody wants to be happy. It's simple. Bottom line, the stuff works. Just give up the struggle. Give up everything that doesn't work. Christ said, give away everything and follow me. Give it all up. It's not working. The struggle, this attainment. I got to prove something. I got to get somewhere. what will other people think of me? None of it matters. And as you get older and older, you realize, oh my God, none of this matters. Did I waste my whole life? Not if you realize that none of this matters. You didn't waste your whole life. It was the board game that we had to play to come to the place that goes, oh my Lord, I'm only here to help other people. Excuse me. Can I help you with that? Could I just smile and be nice to you and return your grumpy negativity with a little kindness? And sometimes, in fact, quite often, that can be really challenging to do. So So no one has a comment. No one has a question. Yeah, I'm having a problem hearing you, Mindy. You're fading in and out. Yeah, do you mind? Yeah, that's very well said. Thank you, brother. That's so nicely said. That's exactly what mysticism is. It does not stand apart from religion. It embraces, it overshadows, it is the most inclusive view. Why should we have to choose a religion and then suffer, in some cases, being told that this is the only way, this is the right way, and if there are other people that are engaged in the same effort to follow their heart and to be kind and loving, that they're all sinners are going to burn in hell. They're blasphemers because they're not wearing the right uniform. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. It's so contradictory to the principles. It's like math, there is not one way to solve a math problem. Uh, in fact, the internet, Instagram, I don't look at TikTok, but I see on Instagram and Facebook, people like to show these alternative math ways of solving math problems, like cross multiplication. You probably won't find cross multiplication in a textbook, but it is handy as can be. And there are countless ways to solve a particular math problem and come up with the same answer. So maybe that's the way we should look at religion in the same way. What is their intention? If their intention is to reorient themselves from being materialistic and self centered to being kind and loving and compassionate, how can you criticize them, regardless of the name they use for God or the shape and size of their temples or the books that they revere? Or so, for hundreds of years, there's been an attempt to create a world religion, but there's not there's not a whole lot of progress being made that I can see. There was a famous in 1893. There was a famous parliament in Chicago, the World Parliament of Religions, 1893. And it's when Vivekananda showed up. And thank God we had recorders at the time because his speech is recorded. And this Indian Swami shows up and with this incredible, godlike, deep, and mellifluous voice begins to speak about Hinduism and yoga and the Vedic philosophies of the Far East in such a, I don't want to say commanding way, but a impactful and influential way that, and this can be Googled, you can, on YouTube, you can find all kinds of stuff about Vivekananda. And a lot of people thought, oh boy, we're on our way to creating a world religion that was tolerant of the differences. And the approach was called via negativa. And via negativa, or the negative way, means to eliminate, to arrive at a unified understanding, or at least a harmonious understanding, by eliminating everything that was not true. Like materialism is not a way to happiness. Let's take something simple. Or bullying other people, a way to manage them and gain their respect and create a hierarchy of power. Or you would just cross these off via negative, eliminate this idea that the world would work if we figured out this power structure, this hierarchy, and made it about the affairs of the world, the material stuff. And if only I had more of what I desire, then I'd be happy. But of course, the irony in all of that is that the struggle to get what you think you want to make you happy creates unhappiness. When you could be happy just by accepting what you have and watching everything that you need accrue all by itself. But we get it in our head, advertising and just education and enculturation, that we need more to be happy. And the irony is the struggle to get that stuff is the cause of all of your unhappiness. So why do we do it? Because we just swung down out of the trees a few million years ago. We're not that bright yet. But we're still evolving. This is something that sometimes I marvel that there's not more discussion about what's next. For you see all these, I love science fiction. I used to read a lot of science fiction. You know, the technology evolves in science fiction, but consciousness never seems to. People are